Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Govardhana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Govardhana Vallabha Girivardhari Asuranandana Bhajanarandana Asuranandana Bhajanarandana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bandha Vihari Jaya Govardhana Vallabha Girivardhari Asuranandana Bhajanarandana Asuranandana Bhajanarandana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Govardhana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Govardhana Vallabha Girivardhari Asuranandana Bhajanarandana Asuranandana Bhajanarandana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada ISKCON Govardhana ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaurapamanandi. All glories to the devotees, all glories to the devotees, all glories to the devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So you're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24. Just read through 21 to 25, and then we'll chant 26. So text number 21, O Vidura, after the departure of Brahma, Kadama Muni, having been ordered by Brahma, handed over his 9 daughters as instructed to the 9 great sages who created the population of the world. Kadama Muni handed over his daughter Kala to Marichi and another daughter Anasuya to Atri. He delivered Shraddha to Angira and Havirabhu to Palusta. He delivered Gati to Palaha, the chaste Kriya to Kratu, Kyati to Brigu, and Arundhati to Vasista. He delivered Shanti to Atava. Because of Shanti, sacrificial ceremonies are well performed. Thus he got the foremost Brahmanas married, and he maintained them along with their wives. Thus married, the sages took leave of Kadama and departed full of joy, each for his own hermitage, O Vidura. So, of course, this is Maitreya speaking. So, today's text, 26. Sachavatinam Triyugam Agnaya Vibudashabam Vivikta Upashangamya Pranamya Samabhasata Sachavatinam Triyugam Agnaya Vibudashabam Vivikta Upashangamya Pranamya Samabhasata Sachavatinam Triyugam Agnaya Vibudashabam Vivikta Upashangamya Pranamya Samabhasata Sachavatinam Triyugam Agnaya Vibudashabam Vivukta Upashangamya Pranamya Samabhasata Sachavatinam Triyugam Agnaya Vibudashabam Vivikta upashangamya pranamya samabhasata. Sachavatinam chiyugam Agnaya vibudashabam Vivukta upashangamya Pranamya samabhasata Sachavatinam chiyugam Agnaya vidubhashadam Vivukta upashangamya Pranamya samabhasata Sachavatinam chiyugam Agnaya vibudashavam Vivukta upashangamya Pranamya samabhasataha. Word for word, saha, the sage Kadama, cha, and avitinam, descended, triyugam, Vishnu, agnaya, having understood, vibhuda, risabham, the chief of the demigods, vivukte, in a secluded place, upashangamya, having approached, pranamya, offering your obeisances, samabhashata, he spoke. Translation, Translation, when Kadama Muni understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chief of all the demigods, Vishnu, had descended, Kadama approached him in a secluded place, offered obeisances, and spoke as follows. Purport. Lord Vishnu is called Triyuga. He appears in three yugas, Satra, Treta, and Dwapara. But in Kali, he does not appear. From the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, however, we understand that he appears garbed as a devotee in Kali Yuga. Lord Chaitanya is that devotee. Krishna appeared in the form of devotee, but although he never disclosed himself, Rupa Goswami could understand his identity, for the Lord cannot hide himself from a pure devotee. Rupa Goswami detected him when he offered his first obeisances to Lord Chaitanya. He knew that Lord Chaitanya was Krishna himself, and therefore offered his obeisances with the following words: I offer my respects to Krishna, who has now appeared as Lord Chaitanya. This is also confirmed in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. In Kali Yuga, he does not directly appear, but he appears as a devotee. Vishnu is therefore known as Triyuga. Another explanation of Triyuga is that he has three pairs of divine attributes, namely power and influence, piety and renown, and wisdom and dispassion. According to Sridhar Swami, his three pairs of opulences are complete riches and complete strength, complete fame, complete beauty, and complete wisdom, and complete renunciation. There are different interpretations of Triyuga, but it's accepted by all learned scholars that Triyuga means Vishnu. When Kadama Muni understood that his son Kapila was Vishnu himself, he wanted to offer his obeisances. Therefore, when Kapila was alone, he offered his respects and expressed his mind as follows. So, as is mentioned on the first meeting, Rupa Goswami and his brother Sanatana Goswami, when they first met Lord Chaitanya, he offered this prayer. So it's mentioned in Madhya Lila 1953. And, it's a mantra I'm sure you're all familiar with. Namo Mahavananyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Chaitanya Namnagor Davisha Maha, that O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden colour of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So we could ask, how did Rupa Goswami actually know that Lord Chaitanya was Krishna himself? So that would be a good question to ask. Obviously, he was Lord Chaitanya. He was a very beautiful, very uncommon devotee. But he wasn't displaying any of the opulence perhaps that the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself may. Wasn't, all sorts of amazing miracles like lifting Govardhana hill or whatever, but obviously an uncommon person. But how did Rupa Goswami understand actually this is Krishna himself? So we can go to, so who was Rupa Goswami? That's a question. Who was Rupa Goswami originally? Is Rupa Manjari, very good. So it's mentioned that in the northern part of Sri Lalita Sakhi's Kunj lies Rupalasa Kunj, where the very beautiful and graceful Sri Rupa Manjari resides. So this is obviously in Vrindavan. Rupa Manjari is the most important of the 8 confidential maidservants of Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world. She is the foremost among the gopis known as Priya Nama Shakis. Her eternal age is, anybody know what her eternal age is? 13 years and 6 months. Srila Rupa Goswami was an incarnation of Rupa Manjari. It is said that without taking shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami, one cannot enter into the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And without taking shelter of Rupa Manjari, one cannot enter into the confidential loving pastimes of Shri Radha and Krishna. So it's a very good instruction to understand that we don't try to jump over the heads of all the acharyas and think that we can approach Krishna, Radha and Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya, but we go through the disciplic succession. And in this way, particularly, we go through the, the very pure associates, eternal associates of Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. And that way, that's the bona fide way to approach the Supreme Person. So obviously, with Rupa Goswami being originally Rupa Manjari, most intimate servant of Radha and Krishna, in the form of Rupa Goswami, he could obviously immediately understand, this is my original Lord. So, and we can understand the 3 external reasons, or there's 6 reasons generally given why Lord Chaitanya appeared. So 3 external reasons. It was to teach all the fortunate jivas the path of Raganuga Bhakti, or the spontaneous Bhakti, following in the footsteps of the gopis. Second reason, to establish the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan. And the third reason, of course, was to fulfill the desire of Vaita Acharya, who was fervently praying to Krishna to descend by offering Ganga water and Tulsi, that in this fallen age, Vaita Acharya is praying, only you can save the fallen souls. So in this way, 3 external reasons. The internal reasons given is that Lord Chaitanya's appearance was to relish the position of Srimati Radharani, who was the prime reservoir of the transcendental love of of Krishna. So Krishna was thinking, Radharani, she has so much love for me. I want to understand what that love is. Second reason was to understand the transcendental mellows of himself. So Lord Krishna, he's the reservoir of all sweetness, and to understand that sweetness of himself, he accepted the mentality of Radharani. And the third reason was to enjoy the bliss tasted by Radharani. Radharani is so ecstatic when we are meeting, and I want to have that. I want to have that love. So for these 6 different reasons, it's explained, particularly by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, 3 internal, 3 external reasons. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the prayers of Prahlad, that he explains the understanding of Tri Yuga. So Tri Yuga obviously is Vishnu himself, and he appears in 3 yugas, Satya, Treta and Dwapara. So specifically, Prahlad Maharaji prays that, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations, thus maintaining the entire creation, killing the demoniac principles. Obviously, this is prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Person, and therefore you are known as Tri Yuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. So Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Lord Chaitanya appears in order to protect and deliver the fallen souls in Kali Yuga. And in all the yugas but Kali, he appears as the Supreme Person himself. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he never asserted himself as a Supreme Person. One reason given is that Lord Chaitanya knew in Kali Yuga there would be many people who would present themselves that I am God. You know, so, and we see that that's going on. Many people present themselves as the Supreme Person, and unfortunately some bewildered or innocent or ignorant people, they accept these claims. And there was one of our devotees, Prithu Prabhu, he I think it was back in the either late 70s, 80s, he was living in Germany at that time, I think, and one of these personalities who was presenting themselves as the Supreme Person, he would have a whole entourage with him, and he would hire out halls or whole ovals, and he would put on a Ras Leela. Somehow or other he'd get all these girls together and be dancing and just somehow or other presenting himself, I am the Supreme Person. So Prithu Prabhu, obviously understanding the philosophy, he found out that one of his old friends, old hippie friends from before he became a devotee, was part of this entourage. So he managed to get a message to him and said, ask this person that if you are God, please manifest your universal form. Because this is what Prabhupada mentions in Bhagavad Gita when Krishna manifests his universal form. Prabhupada said this is one of the criteria. If someone claims to be God, please show us your universal form like Krishna did. So eventually the answer came back, said, actually I am always manifesting my universal form, but you don't have the eyes to see it. So that was his response. So these things are going on. So so Lord Chaitanya knew that in Kali Yuga there'd be many bogus incarnations pretending to be God. So therefore, one reason, there are other reasons, but one reason why Lord Chaitanya didn't present himself as a Supreme Person, because he didn't want anybody using his example to claim, I'm also God. Of course, Krishna himself, when he appeared in the Dwapara Yuga, he did appear as a Supreme Person. He manifested so many different miraculous pastimes. But so Lord Chaitanya, and Krishna also, we know, deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants. So Krishna killed many demons who were harassing the Brajabasis. But when Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't kill anybody, but what he does, he uses his weapon of beauty to kill the demoniac propensity within the heart. So no actual sword or club or whatever, but the weapon of his beauty and killing the demoniac tendency within the heart of the fallen souls. So also in Chaitanya Charitamrita we get another pastime about this tree yuga. It's quite interesting that when Lord Chaitanya first went to Jagannath Puri, he went ahead of the other devotees. The other devotees headed by Gopinathacharya and Lord Nityananda. They were behind, and Lord Chaitanya went ahead. He went to the Jagannath temple in complete ecstasy, chanting and dancing, and eventually he just fell down unconscious. And so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was like the head pundit at that time. He was actually the brother-in-law of Gopinathacharya. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was the head of the Mayavad scholars also, impersonalist scholar. So he noticed that this young sannyasi, very beautiful, very uncommon features, and he arranged for him to be taken to his house. And eventually the devotees headed Gopinathacharya, Nityananda, all the other devotees, they heard that Lord Chaitanya had been taken to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, and so they began speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Gopinathacharya said, "My dear Bhattacharya, you do not know the greatness of this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are found in him to the highest degree. Those who are ignorant find this conclusion very difficult to understand." So it sounds like quite, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was respected as the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis, basically in all of India. So this Gopinathacharya was speaking quite, almost harshly to him, but because they were a brother-in-law, there was some sort of leniency there. So, Sarvabhauma and the other Vaishnava sannyasis, they had no idea that actually the absolute truth could be a person. Their understanding was that impersonal effulgence, the Brahman, is topmost and everything is coming from that Brahman. So, however, the disciples of Sarvabhauma weren't very happy to hear their guru being spoken like this. So they immediately said, "By what evidence do you conclude that this Sri Chaitanya is the Supreme Person?" So that's a valid question to ask. You make a statement. You should have some evidence to back it up. So Gopinathacharya immediately replied, "The statements of the authorized acharyas who understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are proof." So that's quite interesting that he didn't say because of Sastra, he said the authorized acharyas. So of course we know Guru, Sadhu, Sastra, they're the three primary sort of sources to understand, perfect knowledge. But Gopinathacharya didn't say all three, he just says the authorized acharyas. So later on, actually, and to support this statement, when Lord Chaitanya was revived and he was speaking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he quoted the verse, "Swata pramana veda praman siromani lakshma karili swata pramana tahani." So this is from Adi Lita 7.132. So Lord Chaitanya said, "The self-evident Vedic literatures are the highest evidence of all, but if these literatures are interpreted, their self-evident nature is lost." So this Swatabhamanya means the Vedas are self-evident. However, if they're misinterpreted, that the meaning will be lost. So for this reason, Gopinathacharya, because he knows his brother-in-law Sarvabhauma was the head of the Mayavadis, he understood, he knew the Vedas very, very well. He was expert. However, he was misinterpreting them, thinking that the Brahman is supreme. So therefore Gopinath, he didn't say statements of sastras, but statement of the realised acharyas. So the disciples of Bhattacharya, they replied, well, we derive knowledge of the absolute truth by logical hypothesis. So that was the Mayavadi system, logical hypothesis. So in Sanskrit, that's Anuman. So Gopinath Acharya replied, well, one cannot obtain real knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by this mundane logical hypothesis and argument. So we know there's three types of evidence. It's Pratyaksha, Anuman and Shabda Praman. So the disciples of Sarvabhauma, they were presenting this Anuman, logical argument or inference, and Pratyaksha is direct perception, and of course the third one is Shabda Praman. So the problem with these first two, Pratyaksha and Anuman, or direct perception and inference, is that both are based on using the senses. What you can see, hear, touch, feel, etc. So what's the problem? What's the problem with those two? Anybody like to say? Imperfect senses, obviously. Our senses are imperfect. So if we're trying to obtain evidence using our senses, we're going to come to an imperfect conclusion. So therefore, Shabda Praman is the perfect source of knowledge, because Shabda Praman means sound vibration of the Vedas. Seeing Sastra Chakshu, seeing through the eyes of the Vedas. But still, as we heard that Lord Chaitanya said, one might know Sastra, but unless we're following the version of the Acharyas, we can still misinterpret the conclusion. So the Mayavadi philosophers, in particular, they make certain hypotheses about the absolute truth, and they reason that in the material world we experience that everything is created, but they're not able to understand who is this creative potency. They don't say, well, the creative potency obviously couldn't be a person, because a person is simply created. So therefore it must be something that's not created. And so their conclusion is the Brahman. So this is the fallacy of the impersonal Mayavad conclusion. And Krishna, he in Bhagavad Gita 7:25, he says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency of Yogamaya, and so the deluded world knows me not. So therefore the Krishna, he reserves the right to stay hidden by those who don't have complete faith in him. So, and he can only be revealed to and revealed by the bona fide devotees who have actually engaged in devotional service. So the conclusion there is that it is only the devotees engaged in devotional service can properly understand who that supreme person is. So Gopinath Acharya, he responded to the disciple and says, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by his mercy and not by hypothesis, not by any mundane or material sort of calculation or word jugglery. And he quotes from Padma Purana, if one receives just a tiny bit of his mercy, of his favour, by dint of devotional service, then he can begin to understand who Krishna is. And then Gopinath Acharya, very pointedly, he speaks to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, says, you are a great scholar and a teacher of many disciples, but you cannot understand the Supreme Person simply by scholarship. And so because of this, because you are bereft of Krishna's mercy, you cannot understand him even though he's present in your house. You cannot understand that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. So some of us may have had the experience, I know I have, that you're distributing books or speaking to somebody and they say, well, you say there's God, show me God. Who is God? I've never seen him. Can you show me God? So my usual first response is, do you know what God looks like? If he was standing before you, would you even know? And I usually just get a blank stare, They're not, or a shrugged shoulders. They're not, I say, I could be God. Would you recognise me? And even if I say, well, I have seen God, would you believe me? They can't answer these stories. It's just a random, show me God. Oh, okay, you can't, therefore he doesn't exist. But one has to be qualified, as Gopal says, that unless one is engaged in service, one is not eligible to access the understanding of who Krishna is. So, so one has to have the prerequisite of devotional service, not simply making some demand that unless you can show me God, I will never believe. So, another thing I can respond to them is that, well, there's 8 billion people on the planet. How many, you say nobody has seen him, how many of those have you asked? And even if one of them said, yes, I've seen God, are you going to believe them? So, it's just a whole lack of faith. In other words, it's their way of just rejecting everything because you can't show me God immediately, therefore I've got no interest. So Gopinathacharya responded, continued that knowledge, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied to this, that, my dear Gopinathacharya, what is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? So it's a valid question. You say, I haven't, okay, but what is the proof that you have? So Gopinath, he says, knowledge of the Saman Bowman, the absolute truth, is the evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So if one begins to understand Krishna and his attributes and his associates and his paraphernalia, the knowledge starting to manifest, this is the evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord reveals himself to devotee when he is completely satisfied with his service. Thus one cannot understand the Supreme Lord without his mercy. So Sarvabhauma, he responds to that, okay, so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's certainly a great uncommon devotee. But we cannot accept him as an incarnation Lord Vishnu because according to Sastra, there is no incarnation Kali Yuga. Another name of Lord Vishnu is Tri Yuga. Because there is no Lila avatar incarnation Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya can't be the Supreme Lord because, according to Sastra, he's using evidence. And so, because of this verdict of the real scriptures, we cannot accept him as, Tri Yuga. He doesn't appear in Kali Yuga, only the first 3 Yugas. So Gopinathacharya, he responds to that in Srimad Bhagavatam Mahabharata, they both state there is certainly an incarnation every age and is called a Yuga avatar. But your heart has become so hardened by logic and argument that you cannot consider this. So Gopinathacharya, he then quotes Bhagavatam 11.5.32 that in this age of Kali, those who are intelligent perform the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, worshipping the Supreme Lord who appears in this age, always describing the glories of Krishna. That incarnation is yellowish in hue and is always associated with his plenary expansions, personal expansions, as well as his devotees and associates. So that's the Panchatattva. He will take the 4th order of spiritual life, sannyas, and he will be distinguished from Mayavad sannyasis in that he will be fixed in devotional service and will spread the Sankirtan movement. So that, in essence, is basically predicting Lord Chaitanya appearing in Kali Yuga. So Srila Vasudev was speaking this, 4,500 years before Lord Chaitanya appeared, but nevertheless he predicted the appearance of Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Personality in Kali Yuga. So Gopinath continues, when the Lord will be pleased with you, my dear Sarvabhauma, you will also understand these conclusions and will quote from the sastras. So, and this indeed came to pass, that we know that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, thinking he's an elderly, experienced, mature scholar, and he's going to teach Lord Chaitanya the Vedanta Sutra, but after it was 5 or 7 days, and he noticed Lord Chaitanya wasn't asking any questions. Sarvabhauma said, I've been speaking for so many days and you haven't asked any questions. I don't know whether you're understanding or not. And Lord Chaitanya said, well, I understand Vedanta Sutra very well, but I don't understand your explanations. So, and at that point he started revealing the greatness of devotional service to Krishna. In that way, Sarvabhauma become a great Vaishnava. So, of course, we have, it's interesting, we talk about praman, or evidence. So even Mother Jasoda, at one stage, she was asking, what is the evidence? So it's a very interesting story I heard from Dinabandhu and Vrindavan some years ago, that one time all the elder gopis come to Mother Jasoda's house, and they were complaining that your son is constantly coming into our houses and stealing all our butter and yogurt. And Mother Jasoda said, coming into your house? My Prabhu, Nanda Maharaj, he has 900,000 cows. We have a river of yogurt and butter running through our house. Why would he go to somebody else's house? Anyway, what is the evidence? What is the praman? She was demanding, what is your evidence that my Lala, my son, is going to your house and stealing yogurt and butter? So the older gopis said, okay, we'll get you evidence. Every day he's doing it, we'll bring you evidence. We'll bring your son covered with our yogurt and butter, and we'll bring you this praman. So the gopis, they went to get Krishna's favourite cow. Do you know Krishna's favourite cow's name was? It's Padma Gandhi. So Padma Gandhi, she was Krishna's favourite because her milk had the taste and aroma of lotus flowers. That was a special quality. So they got milk from Padma Gandhi, and they made the milk into yogurt and then churned it into butter. And then they put that butter into a bowl, and all around the bowl they put small bells. So if anybody moved that bowl, all the bells would ring. So then they tied that bowl with a rope and pulled it up to the rafters, so the bowl was just hanging below the rafters. And all along that rope, they put bells. So if anybody touched that rope, all the bells would ring. Then they thought, actually, this Krishna is very clever. Sometimes he stands on the wooden grinding mortar to get up and get that bowl. So all around the wooden grinding mortar, they put little bells. So if anybody moved that grinding mortar, all the bells would ring. Then they thought, actually, maybe he'll come through the window. So they put all bells around the window, so if anybody tried to get through the window, all the bells would ring. So then all the elder gopis, they hid in the house, under the stairway and in the shadows and here and there, just waiting for Krishna to come. They thought their plan was foolproof. So eventually Krishna, he understood that actually in this particular house, there's some fresh yogurt from Padma Gandhi just waiting for us. So he came to the window with all his friends, and looking through, he saw the whole scene. The window had bells, the wooden grinding mortar had bells, the rope had bells, the bowl had bells, and everywhere he looked had bells. So Krishna looked at his friend and says, who do these gopis think they are? I can create universes, I can destroy universes, and they think they're going to protect milk by putting bells. So all the boys started laughing, thinking, they're not thinking Krishna is God. He's just just a beautiful young boy who's so much fun to play with. And they all laughed at the thought, Krishna creating universes. They just thought he was joking. So, Krishna, they're protecting their milk with bells and I'm creating universes. What are they thinking? So then he looked at the bells and says, don't ring. So then Krishna, all the cowherd boys, they come through the window. Not a single bell rang. Then he moved the wooden grinding mortar right under the pot. Not a single bell rang. Then he untied the rope and lowered the bowl down. Not a single bell rang. And then he put the bowl, picked up the bowl, put it on the wooden grinding mortar. Not a single bell rang. And then he put his hand into the butter and put it into his mouth. All over. All of a sudden, all the bells started ringing. And the gopis jumped out. Ha, we have got you. We have the praman. We have the proof. You have all our butter and yogurt all over your hand, all over your face. Now we're taking you to your mother. Now you're in big trouble, Krishna. And then Krishna, he looked at the bells very angrily and said, I told you not to ring. So we know everything in Krishna's pastimes is a person. So the personified form of all these bells appeared in front of him. The head bowed and arms folded, says, we are your surrendered servants, Krishna. Please be pleased with our service. But Vedic injunction is that when you accept your bhoga, the bell has to ring. What can we do? So in that way, Krishna was dragged to Mother Jasoda with the praman all over his face. Okay, thank you very much. Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Any questions or comments at all? Okay, thank you very much. Prabhupada, Ki Jai.